So this seems like a pretty interesting story. Let's get the AI rundown about this.
Dr. Do, and everyone watching. Fortune reports that
Docker
22
do.
year old Adavia Davis, who left Mississippi State University in 2020, runs a small network of faceless YouTube channels that are largely AI generated and require about 2 hours of daily oversight. Davis told Fortune his channels bring in roughly $60,000 per month, with operating costs around $6,500 monthly. And Fortune says it reviewed screenshots of analytics and AdSense payout records consistent with roughly $700,000 a
That's a
year
lot
in
of
gross
money.
revenue.
Just gonna say,
The most
that's
lucrative
a lot of
channel
money.
described is a long form, boring history format, multi
Hmm.
hour history to sleep to videos,
You guys have
assembled
seen
via an
these.
automated workflow
You guys have
using
seen
tools
these.
like Claude for scripts, visuals, and 11 Labs for
It's a
narration,
different kind of
with
AI
per video
slop.
production costs described as low as about $60.
$60
Fortune. In
per
broader
video.
context, this fits the ongoing AI slop brain rot debate. Capwing's late 2025 research estimated that about 21% of a new user's first
Now,
500
granted,
shorts were AI
new
generated,
user, not
and
logged
about
in, no
33% were brain
preferences.
rot, with the
So
company
children,
also
basically.
estimating large cumulative views subscribers for channels in this category. Analysis.
Wonder what their definition of
Davis's
brain
numbers
rot
show how
was.
aggressively automation can arbitrage watch time economics, but the model is inherently policy and advertiser sensitive. YouTube's partner program guidance explicitly says repetitive or
Oh,
mass produced, inauthentic content is ineligible for monetization,
really?
and YouTube also requires disclosure for realistic altered synthetic
Okay.
media in certain cases.
So
Capwing
that
source.
is actually kind of interesting. So we're going to explore some AI slop you guys may have seen. I don't really consider it slop. I've actually listened to several of these. When you just want something going on in the background and you're like, hey, I'll just listen to short stories. Now I'm an audiobook reader. I do a lot of driving, and some of the stories are not bad. And with a lot of the prompts that they've been using with Claude things, so I actually read the more in-depth article that was not available through this, which yeah, I'm not paying extra when I pay through other portals. You get things like Apple News Plus or Particle or Ground News or all these things, and then suddenly you try to go to the website and you get these things. So as a world, we haven't even figured out paywalls yet. By the way, I'm Dr. Do. This is Second Opinion with Dr. Do. I am a doctor of business administration with a focus in public policy. I am an expert in systems thinking, performance management, among other things. I have a blue collar background, so language warning just ahead of time. Things will slip out. I'm working on a swear jar this year. I'm really trying to work on that. Uh, but this is very interesting. So when I go to YouTube, I read the story, and then as I'm going through and my autoplay is going on, and I'm getting the IT things, programming things of that nature, I come across this. Now, I don't know which of you have not seen these stories here. You can just start scrolling through this little. We can ignore all the comments here. But look at these on the right hand side here. What if Black Adam landed in the boys universe? What if Beerus entered the Star Wars galaxy? What if now, granted, these are only certain types of stories. These are sort of like what ifs. So if I just scroll down through here, we're gonna see what ifs, what ifs, what ifs. My God, they just don't end. They just don't end. They go on forever. They go on forever. And it's not the same channel. All these different channels. Some of these are probably real. Okay, someone probably spent some actual time on a few of these, but that's AI generated right there. You know, you just look at this. It's just AI generated, AI generated, AI generated. Some, and you look at the times. None of these are from like 3 years ago. So for a lot of the world, and just kind of putting up right here because you guys don't know a lot about me. I've been using AI since GPT-2. I've been using AI since very late 2020 through 2021, well before any of you got access to GPT 3.5 on November 30th, 2022, the day that sort of rocked the world a little bit. Oh, that's animated. How nice. That's um really sure. Okay, sure. So what these stories do is they will take script ideas the same way that I had my bot speak to everyone here. So let's see if I can get this working. Go back to in here. I've got this in a little project, and just having it put things out in a particular format. But these are doing very long form content, like very, 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 very long form content. If you look at the playtime on things like this, so pull this up here. Oh God, oh God, it's gonna make me. We're gonna pause this as
The morning
soon
of
as.
September
Yeah, no, 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 we don't. We're gonna do that in a minute. That's an hour. Look at that. That is an hour. These may or may not be AI generated. Depends. I've seen a lot that are. There's a lot of aliens. Uh, I went down a rabbit hole while just listening to stories. I was not thinking. There are times I do not think. There are times even someone with a PhD does not think. I like to turn my brain off just like everyone else. And I got into these uh, space fantasy stories. I wouldn't call them science fiction because there's no science in them at all. And they're not really even fantasy. They're just these space stories. Humans are asleep and the aliens woke the humans up. And oh gosh, what did they learn next? And then 45 minutes in, aliens are learning about bagels and coffee. And the entire universe becomes addicted to caffeine because they made the mistake of waking up the hibernating humans. This is what this is. This isn't so much slop. This isn't AI generating this in one go and you're getting a 15-second out of Sora or something like that. That's slop. That's where you see dogs flying up into tornadoes and grandmas on their front porches telling alligators to get off their lawn. Um, and to get now, you get that's AI slop. Or you think of the Pope image with the fluffy white coat. That's AI slop. These are different. These are amalgamations. And so what they do is they have these scripts, and you'll see that right here there's just this hour and 1 minute script. What they do is they take a script, and this gets generated through something like Claude, a very good writer. So those of you um, who don't like the chat GPT, and you're like, oh, it's horrible at writing. They actually do a fairly good job here with the writing. It's not what I would call terrible. Uh, Not what I would call good, but it's not what I would call terrible. They take that and then they throw it into something like 11 Labs. 11 Labs is actually a really good tool, build a lot of things with it. I tend to use 11 Labs Reader, taking a lot of content. I'll do, have a research popped out onto a topic through ChatGPT. This thing turns out to be anywhere from 25 to an hour and 15, roughly the size, and just have it narrated for me. What they will do though is they use some of the slightly more custom models, and they'll have a narrator voice. They'll take that big script that they had automated and pushed out through something like a Claude, and then they've got a script that they run through 11 Labs, and then we'll automate doing that. And then they will go through and add these images. And all they really have to do is something kind of like a Gemini does when it does the storybooks, which is um, at certain points, let's say, identify X number of points within the script where um, there are dramatic scene changes. Create an image, make image, make image, make image. They have the images, and then all they have to do is they have those images, which will then transition as they go through. Some may have one or two images. Some may have a single image. I've seen stories where it will just show a single image, and then it will just zoom in on a certain character at a certain point, or something to that effect. Or it will be multiple images, but it'll just be multiple images of the same scene. Like there will be space orcs sitting around a table, and it will show the one, and they'll go back to the other, and they'll go back in. And so this might be a little more handcrafted for somebody who's not fully automated this. So they're just kind of putting this on their own. And then, of course, as the story notes right here, um, they they just pay people. The $6,500 goes to a small team where they have a few editors that just go through, make sure that videos get uploaded, make sure that they run through, they look okay, there's not any big issues, and then they put them out to all these channels. This one is called The Long Watch, uh, A Stranger in Middle Earth, Long Watch, more Long Watch, Galaxy If uh, galaxy if multiverse. Some of these may be real, but how are people putting? And I would get some channels. I was like, okay, well, these are kind of neat. Somebody's making these little stories. It was kind of enjoyable. I was amused. I'm always amused by the humans overcome aliens storyline, which most people are, as writers such as um, Isaac Asimov and Frank Herbert would say. They say, why do the humans always win in these books? And I said, well, because humans are the ones buying the books. Which is a very good point. But if you go through here and I'm like, okay, this is actually an interesting story. I don't know that I didn't listen to this, but I would listen to these and say, oh, that's interesting. I'll subscribe and I just hit play. I turn my brain off. I don't have to look. That's the thing about listening. I don't really have to look at these, but I might if something catches, if it's sitting over there. It's kind of like changing art. It's just kind of a thing going on that's kind of going along with the story, kind of for the mood, for the vibes. And I would listen to them and I would realize that they were putting up a new story, not like they're putting up a story a week, like somebody sits down and they're featuring somebody. It was not a story a week. It's a story every 4 hours per channel. It's a lot. And you're like, how are they affording to do this? And then you look at the views. This one here got recommended. But if you look, this one here, right here, 22,000 views 12 days ago. Okay. You see a few more. What if for 6,000, 11,000, 20,000? We have a lot of these 900, 258. Like, we'll just click on one of these. 58. Let's see if this is real or not. And my God, we're going to have to stop this. This might be real. The reason this will be real, I see chapters. So I'm going to let you guys know how you can tell a little bit about this. I see chapters, which means that is very likely, possibly, maybe real if they've done chapters. But you just get a lot of this over and over and over. Um, and every 4 hours. How are they doing this? Because it's $60 per video. Okay. What if, we go to something like this, you know, put together, maybe somebody wrote it, maybe a kid made this. Who knows? This has 20,000 views, 2 weeks, but only 1,000 subscribers, right? But if we go into the page, and I don't know, this could be real, but look at this. 10 hours ago, 2 days ago, 6 days ago, 7 days ago, 8 days ago, 9 days ago. And these videos are an hour and 42 minutes, an hour and 37 minutes, an hour and 29 minutes, an hour and 59 minutes. What if, what if, what if, what if? Now, granted, it could be someone like me. I'm not saying that these are AI, because I don't know. But look at the views. And you're like, well, is it even worth it? Those cumulative views that you're seeing going on up here, 5,000, 2.6 thousand, like they're not a lot. But you're going to notice as I'm starting this channel, and I've done plenty of a media thing before, I know it's going to take a while before this channel ever takes off. But the images, the time to to actually do this there's no way a human can do this unless they won the lottery and they just do this 24/7. But there are thousands of these. Like they can't be making that much money. $700,000 a year gross. If we're saying the operating costs are roughly about 10%, we're looking at 75 to 90% profit through AdSense. Why? Because YouTube sucks at finding this. 1,000 subscribers, 25 videos. This channel started 1 month ago, has been blasting these out. They probably saw a tutorial on here's how you get a, like Thor versus the Borg, uh, Vader versus humans. I mean, look, Master Chief. Who's writing a 2 hour and 21 minute? Now maybe this is a person. I don't know. Let's hear a voice. Let's see what we got here. Let's see if this is real.
A crack formed across the fabric of
No, that's not
reality,
real. That's
silent, impossible, and glowing.
that's an open or that sorry, that's an 11 Labs voice. Like it just is. You're going to see some inflections, but let's go through some of the pictures. Okay, it's got a style. Yeah, it's going to have pictures throughout of make a scene with this, make a scene with this, probably using the script to say, okay, take this paragraph and make it look in this style with this picture, and you just pretty quick. Like all of this could roughly be done in a half an hour. All the script, the pictures, the 11 labs, you throw it into basic editor. That may be automated. That may be the human team getting 6,500 a month. You throw you throw your elements of slop together, and if you put enough slop together, it's kind of not bad in the background. It's kind of like the AI equivalent of lo-fi. And the actual damage here is to someone like a channel like Lo-Fi Girl than it is to writers. Like no one's getting lit. This is not replacing books. This is not replacing human artists. Like, but it is replacing storytelling in a way, and it's sort of slopifying. What if Godzilla appeared here? And look at all these channels. Just look at the amount of channels. And they're going to be very generic. If you see something that looks a little more specific, it's probably a real channel. So some of these are probably real channels, but Multiverse Explorer, like it's yet another Master Chief Star Trek. If I watch enough of these, my feed will fill up with nothing but Master Chief in the Star Trek universe. And there's enough crap out there that it is possible that I could live in a world where YouTube was nothing but a Halo Star Trek generator, and that's all it would be. There is enough. When I started down the rabbit hole of doing the humans versus the entire universe, where they underestimated the humans, um, the, every story was the same. Like it is AI. You're not going to get wild plot points. But again, it's just like it's. I hate to compare it because there are real, at least there used to be, and hopefully there still are real authors behind things like um, the Kindle Unlimited romance. Romantasy is now, I've heard that's now the term is romantasy. We have these fantasy romance novels that people just read for real. Yeah. I'm not going to name anybody. That's how they put themselves to sleep, is a romantasy. So they will, oh, uh, my little emotions going off. Need to silence that on these. Again, first video, jumping back in after several years of not making content. It's going to be a few hiccups. But these are like romanticities for people like me who, when I read a real fantasy novel, when I jump into science fiction, like I want to Jerry Purnell, or I want to read it. I want to pay attention. It's good literature. This is crap. This is junk food. This is lower than junk food. This is this is gas station brand cheese puffs is what this is. Um, and just out of curiosity, um, we could go a little further. Let's go up and see if we can extend this a little further. I don't know if this will cut the audio off. Again, I'm trying a few things, so I've got my whisper flow on here, and we'll just see. Is this related to the long 60 to 120-minute stories that I often see on YouTube where it will be sort of science fiction and fantasy? We'll throw that in there. Hope that didn't. Well, I guess I'll find out in post if this actually threw that off. Because I'm kind of interested to see if this is one of those where uh, I think this is hilarious to actually watch going on. When we're just wanting an answer. Sorry, I turned heavy thinking on high. I'm quite the AI user myself, so I'm not dogging AI here. I am a 200 a month GPT, plus I use AI, plus I do programming, plus I actually build automated workflows with this. And again, I've been using this since 2020. So I'm not dogging AI here. Um, I'm curious. Looks like, let's see here. Faceless content. Okay, so we're kind of going a little broader here. That term has come across to me, and hopefully this keeps it short. And we'll do a quick read and find out what the answer is.
Dr. Do, and everyone watching, yes, it's related in format and incentives. The Fortune example was a boring history, faceless channel built around very long
Sure.
history to sleep to videos, often hours long,
Yep,
assembled with
talk
an
about that
automated
pipeline
AI
right there.
pipeline, Claude for scripts, visuals, and 11 Labs for
Yeah.
narration. The 60 to 120-minute sci-fi fantasy story videos you're seeing are basically the same background
Yeah.
listening, fall asleep template, just in a different genre. Some are human written and narrated.
Yeah, it looks like we have another possible story here. Looks like it's related to AI slop. Boring history videos are flooding. So we have a 404 media. Kind of interesting. Let's see what 404 has to say about this. Oh, they are doing the same thing, only they did this months ago. You are so behind. So far behind. Fortune. Uh, their Fortune's becoming so listicle. Now Fortune's sort of turning to, I don't know if that had a real author, but did it have a real author? Let's see if that had a real author. It says it does. So looks like they actually did review some things. So I won't give you guys too much crap. Do. Yeah, see these just AI generated fantasy videos. I'm kind of curious. Boring history for sleep. Yeah, that was his. Yeah, and you can see some of these. I will say, at least here, there's some nice formatting that they worked on. These actually don't have horrible views. So it looks like this person is sort of making more targeted content where they're trying to sell their channels. They're trying to actually make some money, actually selling these to a brand or somebody who might keep the story safe. And if you're a Coca-Cola or Maxi Pads or Dawn dish soap, you might want to advertise on this because it's always going to be within the guardrails of safe content that people are going to watch. And if they're playing in the background, that means your ad is playing in the background. It makes complete economic sense from both sides. We could complain and say, who is this hurting? Um, it could be hurting what I wouldn't want to call it edgy content, um, but it could hurt content that is not so family friendly. There are things in the world that are not family friendly but are still important. One of those would be the news. Another would be education, or uh, I could think of a few other topics where you could not probably get advertisers without being a big name, like a CNN, Time Warner, HBO, where you can have anything edgy or violent or things that might be um, perfectly legitimate, but it's not exactly where Procter and Gamble want to put their messages. Whereas they can put them on here, and if you just want to put something brainless on the TV or on the phone or on the tablet or whatever while you're cleaning your house, you're exactly where they want to be. So yeah, this all makes sense. This is exactly what we're seeing here, just over and over and over. We could probably just keep going down the rabbit hole. There's a Godzilla one right there. We'll just let's see how far down the rabbit hole we can go. Let's see. We gotta go to number 2 here. Nope, we're actually running into real content. Looks like we've got some real pages actually. So what do we learn from this? Basically, this is going to spread. And I hate having something on here that I'm not sure if it's real. So let's go back a few just to get to some definite crap. And make sure this is actually definite crap. 730 subscribers. We've got a username with a number. We got 1,000 views. And how long of a video got? Let's make sure we got the
Rain
AI.
hammered the forest canopy.
Yeah, we got the AI. Okay. Sorry if you're a real person, but this is the crap. This is the crap we're talking about here. This is what I hate to say it, and so this is second opinion. So that's the story. We have a couple follow-up questions to ask here. Let's put the doctoral hat on and let's talk about, does this matter? In a way, no, it absolutely does not. I think moral panic around this, like, yeah, we don't have to, this is not the finest art. The other thing that's not the finest art are soap operas. Soap opera storylines are the most predictable thing on planet Earth, and that's why they work. Why, whether it's, any countries, whether it's American or telenovelas, I mean, if you're a fan of Enrique Iglesias songs, telenovelas and their intros are the place you want to be. Um, but they are their own sort of art form. But that doesn't make each episode art. But it doesn't mean that the actors aren't talented. But it doesn't mean they're Shakespeare either. It's like a rom com. We look at movies and we think about like a rom com. There are no rom coms with amazing plots. There just aren't. We could think of memorable ones because of a line such as you know, or a dramatic, romantic, not quite comedy like a Jerry Maguire or something like that. Um, but in the genres, um, it's about mass production. They want to get butts in the seats to sell popcorn so the theaters stay open, so people buy more movies, people get DVD collections. Um, there is it's not slop, but it is sitcomish in the fact that a lot of the storylines are remade and regurgitated. We're not looking for Shakespeare when we're watching WWE wrestling. Okay, we want simple storylines. We want a good guy, a bad guy. We want twists. We want turns. We want some backstabbing, and that's about it. Uh, Same thing with the soap opera. Same thing with um, any of these formats. Uh, I think of reality TV, and um, many of the subplots that were built out with the early reality TV just get regurgitated, whether it's a Big Brother or a Survivor or um, back in the day, the Real World. Once these plots got established and the producers found out which of them worked, they just rehashed them. Um, Same with the Jerry Springer or Maury or any of the daytime TV talk shows. Um, if you could almost guess, except for maybe which gift was being given away, how an Oprah show went. These were not Shakespeare by any stretch of the imagination. So when I look at this, and I'm sitting here and I'm trying to figure out, does this make the world worse or not? I don't see it. Listen, I remember the Jerry Springer live. Okay, I also remember things like the sitcoms. What was a Home Improvement with Tim Allen, not Shakespeare. Characters you're supposed to kind of grow up with, but even before that, like All in the Family was not really evolving. Why it was sitcom is a situational comedy. They created a situation, you showed up, and there was a little bit of a storyline if you followed for years, but not in the way you saw with like Friends. But also, the idea of a situational comedy is if you know nothing about it, you can sit down, watch, enjoy it, and walk away and never care about the characters. That was the point of a sitcom. You didn't have to catch every episode because it was all live. There was no recording. There was no YouTube. So you either saw it live. If you missed an episode, you missed it forever, unless there was like a, hey, replays of the popular shows on Sunday or something like that. That's just how it was. I still remember before VCRs. Showing my age a little bit here. So, what about this? Is this worse? Nobody's going to compare this to All in the Family, but I can name 1,000 shows and 1,000 episodes that you will never think about. It's like, oh yeah, there was that show. Yeah, I don't remember that episode. Oh, you don't remember the one where blah blah blah. You have I always think of episodes of Different Strokes. Different Strokes had some very dark episodes of oh my god, it was like literal child kidnapping. But do you remember like a regular episode? I mean, other than the catchphrases? No, neither does anyone else. Three's Company, great show. Any super memorable Three's Company episodes that just immediately spring to mind? No, you think of the characters because they were fun to watch and you knew a little bit about them, but you didn't get deep into their backstories. I'm sure they even had them. Some writer in the background probably wrote them down, sprinkled them throughout, and just hoped somebody would actually catch that they were trying to do some real writing in there. But it's not to knock their art. They're just entertaining people. People want to come home and just stop thinking, turn their brain off. And that's what this is. This is turning the brain off. So who is this hurting? Um, it is actually causing a human harm. And we're not going into the AI rainforest water usage theory because I think science channels do that far better than me. That's not why I'm here and what I'm doing. Uh, we're looking a little deeper and trying to find something that's not really talked about. This actually hurts writers' rooms. And again, I'm not an artist. I'm not a writer. I'm here making a YouTube channel, but I'm not trying to replace the next producers of the next Friends or Seinfeld or The Sopranos or any of that. That's not the level we're at here. Okay. But when you look at this, the only thing that I can think is if you're a writer in a writer's room and you want to do the next great sitcom, you want to be the next Seinfeld or the next Friends, or I mean, it I could only hope that somebody that out there aspires to be the next Gilmore Girls. If that's you. This ends your career right here because I can throw this on while everyone else is scrolling on their phones, and I'm fine. And also, there are plenty of humans that do this. Okay, this is what we're doing here is the replacement for the sitcom, edutainment. Um, and I, I just like how I just let myself through that door with like the going back to Vsauce or Veritasium or Kyle Hill or any of the various money shows that are out there that do great economics and such. Those nice edutainments. Those channels are also coming under not attacked by just these, and they're coming under attack. People trying to steal their content, but they're coming under attack by actual things like boring history, which is literally just taking all of the facts of the past, having AI spiced up and presenting it. And it's come to find out, you can make a lot. There's the number of viewers of these videos is in the billions because a lot of people they may not even log into YouTube. They pop in there or they've got their Gmail and they just play whatever. It's scrolling on their phone while in the bathroom. The only advantage with YouTube is better advertisers and long form content for people that don't want to have to act. See, that's the downside. This exposed the downside of some of these new media companies. What is the downside of TikTok? The downside of TikTok for the viewer is they have to scroll or they have to sit there and they get a very jarring experience if there's some sort of automatic scroll, whether it's an Instagram or Snap or TikTok. This just plays. You just turn on, and that was the great thing about the era of television and antenna and rabbit ears or even cable when you didn't have a lot of channels. You just turned it on and left it. That's why when you go get your oil changed, look up there and you will see something like an HD TV. Somebody's house will be worked on, they'll be doing a thing. It will be that same content in ad infinitum. Why? Because they don't want screaming, they don't want any news, they want people to veg out, see something kind of mildly interesting, be like, oh, huh, that is a nice color of deck wood. Oh, that's a stain? Oh, that's nice. They don't want anything edgier than that. That's what they want at a Jiffy Lube. That's what they want. But that's also what people want at home. They just want a thing that is on, that's interesting, that just kind of keeps a mild simmer. And there's tons of that on YouTube. That is not an AI problem. That's a human problem. This is just a new way to do it. But there are now well over a decade's worth of HD TVs to do this for that. Um, and there will be those areas that until robots are making decks, that content will just exist. They won't break out like they used to. The audiences are far more segmented than they ever were before. And some of us just have the tools where if we want to, we can just make this ourselves. This is not hard. This is when I turn my API on, I can have it churning this out with prompt, 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 and I've limited the answers here. This is very cut down because I didn't. That's the whole reason I'm in a little project here. I did not want it talking a lot, even though I'm using a high thinking mode. I want something very simple that I could actually play for an audience and actually talk about myself. But this is so scriptable And the prices are so cheap. If you're looking at something like a GPT 4.1, pennies an hour, pennies an hour for something that's not bad, stays within some guardrails. Um, you might even have a multiple process where you want certain kinds of storylines and you got a framework and you have that run through doing outlines, and then you have one model working on one and one model working on two and one model working on three. You may have another one that goes back and it just all it's supposed to do is find all the points where there could be some character growth. And then maybe you've got an AI model that all it does is character growth and backstories, and all it can do is add a couple paragraphs. And so it does that, and then you have some final formatting, and you have this little automation that I set these up all the time. You set up your little automation, and you hit go, and all you have to do is feed enough ideas in. You're like, yeah, but how do you come up with all the ideas? What ideas? This is what if Guts fought in the Middle Earth? I don't know who Guts is. I'm not even. This is what if Odin came into Star Wars? Really? This is guys. This is a spreadsheet of characters. It's a mix and match, and it's just running through every single combination. And it can do each one of these 100 times over on 100 different channels. And whichever one takes off, well, that's the winner. It doesn't matter because if it costs $60, all it ever has to make is $60. And if you're making this is what you call evergreen content. Why? This doesn't age. This will be here. It doesn't matter if it's 2025 or 2085. This video will matter as much. It doesn't matter now. It won't matter less then. It will not age. Um, it's I always think that when people say it's like, oh, it aged like fine wine. This is this is like unaging Kool-Aid is what this is. It's Kool-Aid. It's fine. It'll do. There's no sugar in it, but it'll work and it won't change for 20, 30, 40 years. And they've got time. That one person's been doing it since 2020, making different content and scripting things like Minecraft and things. That's what people used to do. Now you can do this and make real bank because if you're able to post 150 videos a day, let's say you're just working by yourself, you're doing all these workflows by yourself, you're doing 150 videos a day. Let's say they say it's costing $60 a day. What's actually costing them is probably the 11 Labs generation because that's the actual point. But if you found some freer voices, you can actually just kind of crank out the same voice. People actually won't pay as much attention. I promise you, the whatever money he's spending extra on the better voice uh, is probably not money well spent. Now you could go too cheap, where it just, but as long as this sounds somewhat, let's listen to this.
The All-Father did not belong in this galaxy, yet the
What other voice do you need? You want to tell fantasy stories. What more do you need than
Force
this?
itself reached across the void and pulled him through.
Not only that, but this was actually done by somebody like the person we saw. You see this? If you've ever watched lyric videos where somebody will do the lyrics of a song because you can't either the audio is bad or they don't like the video and people just want to do like or remix music, you'll see like the equalizer going on the screen. See these little effects here?
He awoke on a world of tombs and forgotten kings.
We're going to go
where
up
the
and
Sith
down.
once ruled
We're going to
without
go up and
mercy,
down, and we're going to have
the
this
air
little
still tasted
snow
of ancient
effect
rage.
going across.
Within hours,
So they at least threw it in Blender or Final Cut Pro or something, and they threw it somewhere that they could put an effect on, and that's all this is. Whichever was cheapest, whatever software they have, that's where a lot of their cost is coming out. They just got to sit here and let their laptop process this, right? They just got to grab their MacBook Pro and process this, and they're doing this for dozens of videos at a time. That's why they're coming up every 4 hours. And as many people as know this process and have a laptop and can throw it up, that's all this is taking. That's all this is. That's why this AI is different than the regular AI slop. The other AI slop is I need OpenAI, I need Google to make a big giant video engine to do a thing, and it's like they're going here. Like, listen, I'm not trying to recreate a Marvel movie here and have Superman actually fly through the window. I just want words because nobody's actually watching this. Nobody's actually watching TV. They're scrolling on their phone. Same with this. You can actually just have this going while you're doing something else, right? Cleaning or listening or whatever, or you're bored, or you're trying to sleep. You just put this on. If you fall asleep to this, 2 hour and 15 monster. Okay, 2 hours and 15 minutes. You put this monster on. I mean, honestly, if you fall asleep halfway through, you're gonna go back and actually listen to it. That's the difference. If if I you might love something like you might be a Star Trek fan. And if you were trying to watch your way through the entire series and you fell asleep during one of them, you might actually go back and watch watch what you missed, even if it's an episode you saw before. Maybe you're a completionist, or you have it's just what you're going to do, and you just love it, and you want to catch every moment and not say you missed any of it. Some people could sleep through Star Wars. I know how that sounds, but some people just don't care. With the prequels, yeah, it's arguable that they may not have to, but you're not going to go back. Nobody is going back to catch the rest of the story. Nobody cares. Um, I read history. I read Gibbon's The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, and I made sure that I never fell asleep. I caught every word because I was going to make it through that book. That was hell on earth. Very interesting, but sometimes it gets into the biblical begets. Bob beget Sally, Sally beget Sarah, Sarah beget Joseph. Great for them. It does get a little repetitive sometimes. History tends to be repetitive. But this is on that level, but to a point where you don't feel like you're trying to read an encyclopedia. It's trying to put a lot of sugar on it. This is sugar mythology. It's what this really is. Uh, I thought this would be a fun first video to start with. So, you know, the reason that I sort of went into that video is it, what I'm going to be doing on this channel is not covering AI or politics or news, but kind of taking another look at things and giving a little bit of a different spin on it. Everything in the world is not black and white. And a lot of times when we look at the news or we look at politics or we look at the world, it's black and white, cut and dry, bad guys, good guys, the left, the right, the center. This is what the West thinks. This is what the East thinks. This is, a lot of these things are nuanced. And you don't need to do a terrible deep dive all the way down to understand all the nuance. Often what you just need is a second opinion. This is the whole idea behind this channel. Um, and I don't take I thought about this a lot of the other media projects I had done before. And one of the things that really struck me is I'm sort of that living embodiment. I'm very blue collar. My first jobs for well over a decade into adulthood was as a blue collar worker. I did factory, I did quality, some CNC work. I've even ran a welding machine, drove a forklift. But I was that geek who had a Tandy color computer and a Commodore 64 128, and I was into BBSs, and I got into the whole gray hat hacking scene, and that was like the young preteen reading Frack magazine. I was very interested in the 90s on how technology worked, and then I was very interested in how security worked, and I was very interested. Sorry, my beard is not. This is a put together first video, and it's just not cooperating with me today. Um, so I sort of got into that, and then I realized that I was in a world at the time, which may be changing now. Hopefully not too much, but I was in a world at the time where you couldn't get very far without experience or an education. And even though I had the passion and the skills, being in the Midwest, it was very hard to get into something like IT without the skills. So I started working on my education, and I just never stopped. And now I am Dr. Dwayne Lehman, which it's a different world going through academia. It's its own learning experience. It's a mountain to be climbed. It really is no different than Everest. Anyone can climb Everest. Anyone can be a doctor. It just matters how much you want it and whether or not you're willing to just take step after step, even when it hurts. If you're willing to do that, you can be one too. Um, Part of the reason that I went down this path and am now doing this program is um, the world changes depending on what information you have access to and views you have access to. It's a very different view from what people are saying in a factory in the Midwest versus what people are saying in a university on one of the coasts, for instance. Now, granted, my doctor comes from the Midwest, so it's not that far removed from each other. Um, but oftentimes we have this idea of a very split ecosystem, and this sort of goes back to this question of AI slop. We have this question where who do we trust? Do we trust media elites? Do we trust academic elites? Do we trust institutions? We're at a very interesting time in history right now where people are very anti-institutional. They're very anti anything that sort of smells of elitism or people on ivory pedestals. Um, and that is something that I think is worth exploring because um, I have criticisms for everyone. Uh, was talking to my wife and going over some of the ideas for this new channel and sort of adding it as one of my postdoc projects is that and while I could not uh, uh, curse in the dissertation, that's it's not a rule here. But I really did sort of go over this and say, I hardly ever take in media that I don't have a comment on that either they forgot to add important context or they've taken something and got it completely wrong. So we're gonna cover things that actually regular people uh, are impacted by, or things that they hear sort of people on that are also on my other end of the sort of spectrum, the elite end of the spectrum, and what they get wrong. We're going to cover things like why are officials, elite officials with 2 and 3 letter degrees, more than 10 years of education, so horrible at communicating to normal people. You don't have to be the best communicator. I think there's a fear of ever being slightly wrong and taking damage for it. If you're going to be a good communicator, it almost requires you to be wrong quite a lot. Trust is not built. This is one of those mistakes is we think trust is built on facts. It is not. If your mother, let's we're going to go a little traditional here. Let's assume that your mother um, was the Leave It to Beaver kind of family, um, wants to invite you over for dinner, probably going to say yes. Okay, it's trust. Is it based on any facts? No, it's just your mother. Um, if you have a friend who invites you over for dinner, it depends on how close you are. Trust, sure. What if you are a woman and your male boss invites you over to dinner and they are single? Well, you trusted them as a boss. They didn't invite the office. They invited you, whether you're married or not, but your boss is single, invited you to dinner alone. Trust is not based on facts. Trust is multifaceted. Um, and I think that's one of the mistakes that a lot of those who have the same title as I do. And while I'm just freshly a PhD, I am in my late 40s, so um, I don't really take any guff from those people that have been sitting in their PhD chairs for 20 years or more. There are quite a few people out there who think that that's how the world works, and I don't give a damn. I don't, let me make that very clear here. If you're worried that this is being, I don't really give a shit who thinks that they're on top of the hill or on bottom of the hill. What matters is whether or not you're able to navigate the world in a common sense way, where you feel like you're not just standing on sand, changing under your feet all the time. And right now, with the information overload, which, is at least the definition I used to know of with the singularity, wasn't about AI. It was just about, a world that was so information overloaded. and we're almost at what I would call attention zero. Um, used to be the saying back in the day, and that if someone else used this phrase and I'm stealing it, sorry, I don't remember it, but back in the day, used to be everyone gets their 15 minutes of fame. And that was with, radio and TV. Suddenly it was, it's everyone is going viral. And then the attention economy came along and our attention spans for content get shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. And I think we're approaching attention zero. That's a problem. That's why we covered this story on the AI slop. That's why this was the thing. And yes, I have to remember which side of the screen I'm actually on, so it makes sense when I'm actually pointing to something. Again, I'm rusty. I haven't done this in almost 10 years, not quite 10 years, but almost 10 years I haven't done this. Um, so when we're going over this though, these things matter. Like this story matters as far as how we're navigating. Like covering that happening on YouTube actually will matter with the upcoming midterms and presidential elections and world peace. Like, how the hell does that have anything to do with world peace? One of the things that I got my doctorate in, and the thing that I've always specialized in all my work is systems thinking. This is really bothering me. I want to get my beard brush out so much, but I'm not going to stop filming. I'm, you know, oftentimes, the saying really is true in any type of media is the first step to winning in show business is showing up. So show up, hair's not right. You don't wait for perfection. We're also going to run through some of these topics without perfection, which means we're going to come back. Second opinion does not mean final opinion, and that's the other thing too. I'm not here to not make mistakes. I spent 2 years writing a roughly 125-page document for publication where every single comma was scrutinized, and there's still probably a mistake. There always will be. I'm not going to sit here and pretend in any remote way that I'm not going to have factual mistakes. There will be. Am I concerned about them? No. I could pretend that I am like, gee, I called it GPT-4, but we're on GPT-5 and oh gosh, I'm gonna have to issue a correction. That's not what normal people do. And on this channel, yes, I'm coming at you from this view to bring stuff, but I'm trying to bring it down to the common level that we're all on the same page. That it's not super weird, goofy speak. And I'm going to get a little controversial at the end of this right here and kind of tell you what really spawned this. A bee that's been in my bonnet for about 5 years. The CDC. What is the main problem with the CDC over the past? Go back to Nixon, right? The problem is the problem with the CDC is that they speak like doctors, and doctors in the traditional sense of, um, you know, not the take two aspirin, call me in the morning, or the doctors. When you see doctors on TV, you like hearing all the medical jargon kind of coming at you, and they're in the ER. Or if you're a fan of the Pit, you know, and Wiley's, you kind of get into that, but they don't feel like they're on a pedestal talking down to people. They're just getting in there and saving lives, right? We're fine with that. What we're not fine with is the hedging. And that's a lot of what in academic writing, you have to do that as well. A lot of hedging. It's possible, maybe. And, academia right now is pushing people to make more assertive statements, but it's like pulling teeth. And quite frankly, if you can't give a direct answer, just be like, listen, it says this, but I'm gonna give it from my gut. If you can't do that, one of my messages, one of the things that frustrated me, and I knew what messaging they were trying to go with, though I thought they should have they held back far too long, far too cautious, uh, far too much. Someone sitting in a room checking their fucking commas. Um, Doctors don't talk like normal people. Half the problem is not policy, whether it's your government or doctors or institutions. Half the problem isn't policy. Half the problem is they just can't speak like a normal fucking person. Again, I spent time in factories before ever coming into school. Um, and it doesn't mean everybody's dropping the F bombs. Like, I'm not trying to say that. but we talk like normal ass people. We didn't sit here and gee, where are my pearls so I can clutch them? Like, oh, I don't know. The evidence is only about 60% accurate. What do we do? That's a problem. And so it's my opinion that the world could use a second opinion. You know, the world as it is first opinion, and I think a lot of great people are doing a lot of great work, and that includes people working on diseases, people working in the news, people covering foreign wars. People are doing amazing work. Problem is, we have a clash. What we have a clash in is a brine. We have fresh water and salt water, and we have this clash where the fresh water is coming down the river, the salt water is coming from the ocean, and we're having a mix here, and it's turning into a sludge of kinds, um, literally and figuratively. If you're a fan of reading about academic or administrative sludge, another topic we're probably going to cover. And so, what I think is most helpful is to um, cut through that with a second opinion. So somebody who is able to see both sides of that sort of divide and sort of cut a new line, and cover the things that people aren't able to cover on specific topics. And again, this is not a news channel, but what I think we can do is have a little fun. I don't know if this is fun. That actually kind of looks fun. I would rather it be snow because I don't think I could try taking a boogie board down that, but I don't think that's gonna work for. We can still have fun doing it, but understanding the world. Um, the problem is the news does not speak like normal people, and I'm not going to go into some topics. For instance, though, I think we all understand that it was really weird that part of the world, the world of where people are just throwing their 2 cents out there, has one type of thought about a Luigi Mangione. But if you listen to the news, the MSN, CNN, Fox, and you listen to the talking heads on TV, they have a very different view and a much more this is disturbing. Meanwhile, the public, or at least the public that was posting about it, having a wildly different reaction. There's a disconnect going on here. And so I think some things just deserve a second opinion because I think one side is afraid of making any mistake, and another side, and this is not political, but just in general, in this world, and not even just the US, but probably in parts of Europe and Asia as well. Not as familiar with South America and Africa, but potentially. Um, you just have people who are tired of nothing getting done. You also have people who are tired of making a mistake and holding on to what little bit of legitimate power does remain. And I don't mean like they're grabbing onto power, but if you're a newscaster, you don't want to jeopardize your entire industry or your job just because you feel like throwing out a little bit of an opinion. I don't have that problem. So we're going to have a second opinion, and we're going to try to thoughtfully go through some things. Um, kind of take a lot of the bullshit out of it. If I was writing, I'm nice enough to not write out bullshit. I actually just put a BS, but we're going to take the bullshit out of some topics, just cover them as they are. Um, and mistakes will be made. That is intentional. Uh, Normal people aren't policing everything they say when they're talking to friends. Um, on the other hand, newscasters, even when they appear friendly, are policing every word coming out of their mouth. That's something we've got to change. I think it's something we've got to fix. Um, and not just about this, we're going to hit a lot of light topics. I'm going to cover productivity systems is one of the things I want to cover. All these people, they've got their Bujo bullet journal. I don't want people to think it's like some weird sexual reference here, but there's do the bullet journal or the getting things done or the atomic method or this and that. I've read all those books, I've heard all those things, and I'm just going to give you all a little secret. It's all just rephrasing project management. Most of the time, it's all to do with premortems and postmortems. Like, they're not lying to you, they're just branding it. So we're going to cover some of that. And I'm going to play the actual videos. I also, to make very clear, I'm never attacking anyone. Even this. Like, hey, you know, respect the game, right? At a minimum, respect the game. Unless someone's actively trying to harm someone, I'm not going to go after anyone doing this. I'm also not going to go after productivity YouTubers. I watch and enjoy a lot of productivity because it's a good reminder, but I also can decode it. And a lot of people that are like, I'm going to get my life in order. It's the new year. I'm going to get these things done. So I'm going to buy a journal, and I'm going to do the 4 a.m. walk. And I'm also going to do the protein shakes, and I'm also going to do the green shakes. And I'm going to do creatine, and I'm also going to do bullet journal. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Oh, and I'm going to get the app, and I'm going to get Todoist, and I'm going to get Asana. And honestly, I don't know some of the smaller productivity apps. That are on there. Trello, Notion. Are you a Notion, or are you Obsidian, or are you really Galaxy Brain and you're doing Apple Notes? I'm gonna break through all that crap. 99.99999% of it is crap, and you can take away a few things. And that's one of the lessons I have too. Is it's not you should not listen to everything, but you should listen to something. It's okay to invite anyone to speak. It's also important that you take only what you need and no more. The whole mantra with camping, right? Leave things better than you left them. And if you're going to leave things better than you left them, it also means uh, what was do you remember? I don't know if they still make these, but in the gas stations, I haven't seen them anymore, except for in like really old gas stations. And I love seeing them. Take a penny, leave a penny. You don't have you don't take all the money when you watch a YouTube or you read a book, no matter how good the book is or how famous the author is. There's a really good book, How to Get Shit Done, I think it's called. There's also I love books that cuss. Um, you know, whether it's Stop Giving a Fuck or Get Shit Done. You're not supposed to like they're great books, they're good authors, they have speaking. Start with Why. Great book. Start with Why is a great book. Um, if you get two takeaways from it, you won. You remember it's like, oh, it's a great book. Yeah. What's my why? What's my purpose? You read a whole book to get a good phrase. It's worth it, but are you supposed to go back and make notes and journal? There's a lot of people that believe that. They believe that when you read books, you do all this journaling. And if they want to do that, more power to them. If you don't do that and you're thinking, should I do that? Here's my advice to you as someone who has read thousands of dry academic and had to take notes. Don't ever take notes on a book. That's not the purpose of a book. I would actually point you to a Ryan Holiday, who might actually take notes on his own books, but um, great Stoic lessons. Um, and the Stoics taught that, books are great, but get out there and live. That's where, yeah, have a couple books, but you're not going to be any better by reading more books and going over and reading them like mantras. So if you're incessantly taking notes on your books such that your notes are also books, you're wasting your time. You're doing a good job feeling like you must be somebody who just loves the art of handwriting. You just want to write like if you're probably your favorite gift in the world is like a quill pen or something like that with a little inkwell and fine paper. Okay, you're not actually learning. You just like writing. Okay, that's the second. I'm going to give you a quick short on that. Do I think journaling is good? I think journaling is excellent. I think what you journal about matters far more than how often or how much you journal. Should you journal every day? I don't know. We have social media. It's not 1694. I'm not on boat. I don't need to journal every day. I think the thing that when people say, a lot of what I say is responses to people say, everyone needs to insert. So I don't have an objection to the act. I have an objection to the everyone needs to. Everyone needs to journal every day. No, the fuck they don't. They 100% don't. Um, Professionals can disagree. If you think that that's the way that leads to, and I watched, there's a few graduates of Oxford. One has a great channel where they talk about living, as a doctoral historian. Another one's a doctor, an MD. Um, Maybe that's what it takes to get Oxford. I didn't go to fucking Oxford. I'm still a doctor. It did not require journaling every day. And that's the other part of this too. It may be for you. Journaling every day might be right for you. It is 100% not right for everyone. Um, For most people, it's not right. Most things aren't for most people. Matcha is not for most people. Okay, everyone's going. This is a thing I saw on media. Everyone's going crazy over matcha. Okay, I spent 3 weeks in Japan back in high school. I had authentic matcha in a tea house. It wasn't famous. One of my favorite experiences in the world. Did it taste? It was good tea. It's good frothy green tea. It was wonderful. I slurped super loud, which was apparently everything that they wanted because we were told to slurp. So I slurped. Um, Wonderful time. Am I going to go out and buy matcha? I love Japan. No. Uh, if if something brings me to that part of the world, I'll try to get that experience again. But life's not just about sharing experiences; it's about having experiences. It's not just about your Instagram photo of what you're doing. Oh, here's my bookcase of journals. I got some books behind me. They're on the bottom shelf. My I'm putting my degrees up. If you can see, like right here is my dissertation, my ropes, and all that good stuff. I haven't worked on display. I climbed the mountain. I didn't. I'm not building a shrine to the climbing gear. Um, life's about the next thing. Life's about where are you going, not just where you've been. It's good to have pictures. It's good to keep things. I have things all over my walls of concerts I went to that were very special to me and my wife. Um, Bands that were. I do a lot of things that are musical. Things with my son. Very awesome. But don't live in an Instagram world. And when you read through things, you're seeing someone in an idealized life, and the best authors will tell you that all you are seeing are the idealized life that they have, and not the warts and all. Some do a good job of trying to bring that out, but the more someone moves towards honesty, and if you said, "Hey, I don't have time to read your book," what should I know? And they say, "Well, here are the 10 lessons." Okay, I don't have time for that. Okay, here's two things to take away. You get down to two things. Yeah, yeah. I don't believe there's a priority. It's a book. Books don't have priorities. You should have priorities, not your books. So in your books, take away at least two things. Even if one of those things is never recommend this book, it was crap. But almost any situation, no matter who it is, and you read a book by your worst living enemy, you will still find one thing that is at least of value to you, even if it's learning from someone else's mistakes and then never recommend the book to anyone else. You can do that. Um, that's what we're here to talk about. So yeah, we're covering quite a swath of things. Yeah, we covered let's see, I haven't covered international war quite yet. Again, some topics, I'll be honest, some topics people just don't care about. I can talk on them. People aren't going to have a lot of care about them. We're going to hit topics and things, and I think the real goal of what do I foresee happening is that if people follow along, and they watch 1 out of 10 videos, 1 out of 100, and after a couple years and they caught a few videos and they just walk away with that they looked at things from a different point of view, and I want to apply that in my own life. I want to see things in a different point of view, even if you disagree with me. If you walk away from this, you say, I think I need to start forming a second opinion and not just take things as they are, because that's what a first opinion is. If the world as it presents itself to you, you accept on its face value. Boy, we talked about trust. You'd better have a lot of trust in the world. You'd better trust that world a whole lot. Like June Cleaver, you'd better trust her inviting you over for dinner, because if you take things at first, at, oh, sorry, I have a window open, and the big city doth have sirens. Um, if you take it at face value, you really are just get that's a first opinion. Yeah, it's a little joke about doctors. Um, but I think a second opinion is something that we're losing the ability to form. The real danger of AI is not slop and all this, and I understand there are jobs, and that is a discussion to be had. Um, but the real danger of AI is not whether it writes, you know, any of these articles and having it do and look up things. This is the least of the use that I have right now of AI. It's I could do this, or we could sit here going through 10 blue links. Okay, it's still a machine. does AI, not AI, it's still a machine. And don't tell me it's written by people, because you probably can't find all but maybe one person out of 20,000 at Google that could understand the search algorithm fully. So it's it's well beyond it's humans making those Timberlake links, including the content. Um, we have a whole discussion to have on news and why most of the people delivering your news don't actually understand the stories that they're writing about, and it's not necessarily their fault. So we'll cover that as well, and why, yeah, maybe even these sources down here, the Fortunes and the Guardians and things like that, are not 100% trustworthy, and not because they're lying to you. They're untrustworthy for a completely different reason that they do not have control over. That's certainly going to be a second opinion. Again, I'm not here to attack, I'm here to inform. And we're here to have a little bit of a conversation. But the real danger is giving up judgment. Uh, AI can inform you. Trust me, it can. Now, quick take on how we're going to use AI on this channel, because I'm sure people are going to be wondering. If I find editing tools that make this screen look better, we're going to use them. Okay. Am I going to be replaced by AI? No. Um, are we going to use the writing from the AI? Yes. Well, I'll be saying, yeah, well, AI hallucinates and things like that. And, even, like on medical advice, I can make mistakes and doctors can catch those. Yeah, but most people can't. And so when we're covering AI, we're going to go over it together. Mistakes will be made, but then again, also, again, I'm reading it as an expert. Um, the things I normally ask AI about are filling in the blanks of certain facts that are very easy to look at and confirm, as we just did. This is it's not rocket science, actually. You don't need a doctorate to be able to understand how to use AI. We're not going to do the tutorial over here, but we're not going to, what I would consider misusing it. We're not, the content of this is not going to be. If you go to the website that I've listed, completely written by AI. I said, mock up a website. Here's the ideas. And then I spent probably 6 or 7 back and forths, just having it directly editing the website. I'm just like, go nuts. And there's a bunch of fake episodes up there just so I can look at them, because I'm not actually active on that site or using it yet. You can click the links. You're not going to play anything. So am I going to use AI? Am I not putting a human programmer out of business? I am a human programmer. I was doing website hosting before I even transitioned full time to IT. I can do PHP, Perl, Python, CSS. I can work in SQL. I can work in Postgres. No problems. I'm an IT director. That's my main job. So I'm using AI to program. Am I putting anyone out of business? No, because I wouldn't hire anybody anyways. Um, that's the other thing we're going to talk about is what it means to certain people. It's like, what does it mean to you if you're not up on a subject, or you are up on a subject, or you're an expert on a subject? What does it mean to you? And so how am I gonna tell people that it's like, oh, well, yeah, no, people should people. Some people can't do a website. What are you gonna pay? You're gonna pay a GoDaddy or a Squarespace or something like that. You're gonna pay someone to template and use their own AI, and you think that's going to a human. Most of it isn't. The humans are actually like working in the back in the data center. They're working on the dashboards. They're working on the portals. They're not working on your website. That's not a thing anymore. Um, Art and things like that. I make SVG images mostly. I don't actually use pictures and images on a lot of my stuff. Am I against it? Actually, no, because at the end of the day, I will still not be hiring anybody ever at all. Like that's not. So we got to have some discussions around AI, and I think there's so much there that even covering this and like, what's your policy? You're using it here. What's your policy? There isn't one. I think a lot of people make the mistake of trying to make everything a policy. What I think is a little in short supply is common sense. Maybe having some principles, and being willing to make some mistakes, and also being willing to correct, and also being willing to forgive people who make mistakes and are willing to correct them. Is sorely needed in this world today. We're just, we are in a bit of a mess when every single thing has to suddenly become a do or die, life or death political situation, like AI. because I'm going to give you guys a little sneak peek. AI data centers are not going to destroy the world. That was already happening. It's not going to speed it up either. We can talk about companies making their promises. Oh, they were going to go to net zero. If you guys actually believe that, that there was going to be this world where all the corporations were going to save us from climate change, that's the other lesson of this. The reason you need a second opinion, the reason you need to be able to think critically and explore, and stay informed and learn how to build trust with a lot of these things. No one's coming to save us. No one's coming to save you. No one's coming to save me. The first person, what they say first. If the plane's going down and the oxygen masks drop, put your own mask on first. Could even go a little religious. I don't really get religious, but it's the sort of uh, take the log out of your own eye kind of thinking. And it's really the fact that we are so splintered that until we're able to all at least find legitimate ways of communicating and thinking and looking at things, um, and releasing some of that pressure valve on the sort of institutional side where they're not allowed to make any mistakes, and also releasing some of the the needs and desires and wants and hopes and dreams of common people. If we can't bring those two together, who gives a crap about the AI data centers? I mean, we have nations and populations worldwide going through demographic changes and political upheavals and conflict. If we can't even start to agree on our conversations, what's even the conversation about AI data centers? Really? I mean, I'll be honest, I'm looking forward to finally having an honest conversation about nuclear power, the positives and negatives. Um, but we are at a point where we need to actually do something, and there's an industry willing to do it, for because it's towards them making money. And to those who would say, well, why can't we build the energy without the data centers? I'm going to put some thinking down and just let you guys know we don't live in fantasy land. Um, Again, doctor of business administration. I'm the doctor equivalent of an MBA. If you think that this world is going to start up a nuclear utopia without a payoff, that will never happen. Even in Stalin Russia, that was never going to happen. So we'll talk about why. That's the thing. It's valid questions of why the way things are. And then if we can think of ways around it, that's great. But what we can't do is ignore how the world actually is. I'm a very pragmatic thinker. Whether I agree with it or not, it's different. I don't have to like a thing to know that it's just that is the way it's going to be. And with the set of variables the way they are, there's only a few ways it can play out. And that's something we can talk about. But if, what isn't going to happen at all in this challenge, we're not going to acknowledge fantasy land. I will give you a little bit of fantasy land here. For instance, I was bouncing some show ideas, when I was looking at some various titles and things. I was talking to the AI and kind of getting these ideas. And one of the things like, oh yeah, it should be kind of like and I won't name the other because I might actually reference this other person. It's like a mix of this person and Chomsky, and I'm like, no, the hell it isn't. I've I've had there are some linguists that I like. I don't have a lot of extensive, but there's some linguists on YouTube that I like. And then, of course, there's linguists that I absolutely can't stand. Chomsky, not because of Chomsky, but um, people always want to quote this person, and they speak on a lot of topics outside of their expertise. Apparently, some linguists, and this is true of all doctorates, but specifically for this, just because they've spoken on things, they think that they're an expert in everything. And there's a few $20 words for that. But basically, people will pair off their expertise in here, and because they'll speak on other things, suddenly they're talking about global economics, and they don't. I'm gonna be honest, like a lot of people that are talking on things like that, they don't know dick all about global economics. They're just talking out of their ass, and they're using their degree to get by on it. Can they? Sure. Should we be quoting them? We have Nobel laureates pop out every year and a lot of actual papers to read. the hell would we be listening to somebody that's just going on speaking engagements? Like, that's how they make their money. It's just speaking engagements. It's good. Doesn't mean you buy all the crap they have to sell. And one of those, like, I make no bones about it. I think there are some pretty piss poor academics out there, and some of them are linguists, and some of them are writing about AI. And then we'll turn around and tell everyone, well, I have an opinion on AI, but I can't really talk about it because I'm sort of a purist, and so um, I don't use AI. Um, we don't. This is the whole idea. This is antithetical to everything we're going to attempt here because there is a point where you can put your nose so far up your own ass that your opinion just starts becoming irrelevant. And it starts turning into an ideology. To treat academics as an ideology, to not have the serious debate, is very questionable. And that's not something in today's world that we can't afford to do that. Um, and quite frankly, it's unrealistic. And I am talking about the stochastic parents authors. I've watched them over several podcasts, and I've never felt more contempt for academics in my life. Not only the nose up their own asses attitudes, but on top of that, it's the fantasy land. They don't believe this and that, and that. And I'm sitting on the economic side of things and the business side of things and the government side of things and the IT side of things. And that's where I'm at. And I just know factually they are wrong, that this will change the world. And unfortunately, and I know this is probably going to lose me a few viewers, nobody will change that. It will not happen. I've already heard that 2026 might be the year of protests at data centers. That's just going to send you all to prison. Like it's and those data centers, like I hate to tell you this, most data centers carry bank data. Most data centers also carry data that has to do with um, financial institutions. Uh, uh, sorry, has to do with it is a little late. But also dealing with DHS data, is dealing with government data, is dealing with IRS data. A lot of this data gets spread out in different places. And I don't know how many people actually know this. I'm used to it because it is the banks, the data centers that I've worked in and around. They're controlled by Homeland Security. If you show up there and you try to enter that data center, you will have maybe the worst last day of your life. Like I'm just you can protest these data centers all you want, but they're connected to national security, and it doesn't matter what who's in power. That is a facility that can take a full palm print scan and a code and your driver's license and possibly an iris scan. And I'm not joking. And if you think that you're just going to cut off access there or do anything like that's not going to happen. I'm hearing rumors that there are some plans to do that. It will not happen. This is not a Johnny Depp movie where he's in a data center out in the desert and he's going to transform the planet with his magical nano rain or whatever that weird movie was supposed to be. It was kind of an okay movie until it just went all weird and like had the government like colluding with terrorists. It was just weird. It was so weird. So we're going to lay that out here. We will have sensible policies around AI. We're going to have definite discussions around AI. But anyone who believes that, like, you know, I don't not support humans first. There is a serious economic change coming, and we'd really better plan for it. Um, you know, all of our jobs are at risk, all of them. And I'm very good at AI. That puts me at risk. It puts everyone at risk, and we need a plan. It doesn't mean we can stop it. In fact, might mean leaning into certain aspects of it and limiting other aspects of it. How's it going to affect art? I don't know. All I know is Disney is throwing a hell of a lot of money in that direction, and they don't normally like losing money. Corporations are not normally known for their altruism. Um, and so the other question is, these are companies that may historically say, well, how are we affected by strikes? And what would it look like if we no longer had to worry about that and we were just a content house like those YouTube channels? They are thinking about that. Um, and the other side of it is people are watching it. Enough people, billions of views a day, are watching it. they know it's not a human, or they don't care that it's not a human. So we have a lot of things to discuss here. It's not to say that there are not problems to cover, but anybody who wants to stick their nose in the air and pretend that abstinence is the answer, um, like just my personal opinion, not even a second opinion, those people can go to hell because I'll be honest, they're kind of useless. They're the people who come to, they say don't bring a knife to a gunfight. They come unarmed. Um, and they they can feel very self-righteous and they can make people who agree with them feel very self-righteous. Other than that, they're relatively useless in the discussion. They don't have a place. And possibly that goes back to the problem that I had with CDC and the problem that I have with a lot of institutionalists is that they failed communications, basic ass communications, and they don't. It's one of the problems that used to be back in the old days, which is turning out to be true. With some of these researchers are from Berkeley. I like researchers from Berkeley. Okay, don't mistake this. I love researchers from Berkeley, Oxford, but I'm seeing a lot of these. Some of these voices coming out of Berkeley have a very snotty ass. A I'm a PhD from Berkeley attitude, and from one doctor to another, I don't give a shit, and most people don't either. I don't know what circle you're trying to impress, but if it's the world, you are failing badly. Um, it's a I don't know, it's what you might call a hoity-toity, and that's not helpful. Wouldn't be helpful for me to take that attitude and say, well, as a doctor of business, here's why you're full of shit, and but put it very nicely and all my things and say this is why boycotts of technologies are horrible for the GDP, and you're actually going to lead to a destruction of the even the lower classes and the welfare state if you would continue to regress technology and make that argument. Yeah, but that's not a discussion. That's that's just saying my authority is better than your authority, and that's bullshit. And by the way, that's also the other thing that's not going to fly here. Um, Most people I know don't actually are not actually that concerned that I'm a doctor. You shouldn't be either. And so anyone out there who wants to do degree comparing, um, just put that kind of out in the open as well. I don't care. I don't care where you went to school. I don't care what your degree was. I don't care if your bachelor was summa cum laude. I don't care if you graduated with honors. I've got gold ropes behind me too for my stuff. Nobody cares. That's not what this is about. Um, there are those people, and I do say that because there are people in the academic world that want to do dick measuring, and they will talk about their published papers. If you are a tenured or you're a professor on your tenure track, and you need to publish papers, go for it. You rack those numbers up. You get your score. You get that score just as high as you can. Um, but I've seen academic discussions where people have actually put out things like, well, I publish 150 papers a year. So I don't know who you think you are. I've actually seen those discussions. If you're publishing 150 papers a year, either you don't sleep or your papers are shit. Like, yeah, you're doing a short paper, you're slapping on your chapters 1 through 3. You're just running a chapter 4. You're grabbing a portion of data, chapter 4, portion of data, chapter 4, portion of data, chapter 4. And you're boilerplating it like, you know, it's okay to have a short paper. It's okay to have a 5-page paper. It's perfectly valid. Um, Anyone reading it or citing it, other than like if you've got like a group and you're maybe you're getting cited because you're doing some p hacking. Sorry, that's some inside baseball, but a lot of the people that get their numbers up are all or get very famous have been found to either be p hacking, and also if you're doing quantitative work, 50% of these aren't replicable anyways. We have our own problems in academia to deal with. I have my own quant study, um, which I think was more fair because actually I I I definitely did disprove my hypothesis. I found a completely separate cause for everything and found out, well, I think I uncovered some bullshit in performance management. I think I just uncovered a little layer of bullshit. So I was quite happy with it, even though it did not prove my initial hypothesis at all. Um, but that's another thing that exists out there. And I know, I'm putting a little extra into this first video, but I just want to kind of cut people off at the pass that if you're going to come here and throw, we're going to throw degrees around this, not a discussion, the zero interest. If you're also going to come with an ideology and say, well, you know, I am opposed. There are so many bad things with AI that I just think it's all completely unethical. And there's actually a term for them, AI vegans. Now, granted, I don't have a problem with vegans, but it's the ridiculousness of um, I will not use this thing. Meanwhile, they might be watching Netflix and searching Google all day long, which uses the same amount of energy. Like your little bit of AI usage would is nowhere near what it costs to stream um, all of your episodes of Euphoria. Okay, so the I'm always just amused by the holier than thou. Holier than thou people usually have a bottle of whiskey hidden in the bottom drawer of their desk, and that is to say their skeletons are just hidden from sight. So this is how what I've kind of done with all my web endeavors, and so I hope to keep this going with here. I run very low bullshit zone, so we're not going to do bullshit here. We're not going to take crap here. Nobody's going to throw weight around, and we're gonna pull some things apart. And if you're down with that, with the doctor who just, I gave you the language word. If you're down with the doctor who just does not give a shit, we're going to cover some things. And you got to realize I will disagree with you on topics. Are you going to be okay when I take a side on something or explain something that is your sacred cow and I slaughter it? Are you going to be okay then? Because we all at some point have to be. We all get criticism. Um, you know, at some point, some student is going to grab my study and rip a part of it to shreds the way that my study kind of rips, you know, little tiny kitty claw into other studies. That's how the world works. We all get disproven eventually. Um, so if you're ready to go down that track and kind of go a little more into this, I'm gonna flesh this out a little bit more. We'll get a little more better than just what I had here. I didn't actually put any thought into this. I literally read a story and I'm like, hey, I know this crap exists. I got a story that's based on this. Let's pull up a couple tabs and just roll with this son of a bitch. All right, again, I'm from the Midwest. Uh, my southern draw comes and goes. It still does, and I've been out here on the East Coast now for I'm starting my 10th year. Um, 10 years out here, and I still can't drop the southern draw. But anyways, this has been a fun first, second opinion with Dr. Do. I hope to catch you guys at some point, hopefully. And I know I'm being ambitious here, but I'm someone who's done daily content before. I'm actually going to be looking at 5 days a week. So, you know, before I sign off, when you do a doctor, when you do a master's, you are now busy every weekend. Like, yeah, you don't need to give up every weekend with a bachelor's. It's like a you're doing your class, especially if you're doing them in person. It's like you're doing your classes. When you get a master's, you gave up every weekend because every class, every single one is also a group project, and so you're just constantly every single weekend. When you do a doctorate, all waking minutes are gone. Um, maybe not, so you sort of do a class portion into your dissertation portion, but you are just constantly working. And almost everyone has a job. Like some of the younger people, some of these people, like the Oxford crowds, it's adorable. They're going into Oxford, 20-year-olds. It's try being a father in your 40s doing your doctorate. It's a very different experience. Um, it's a lot more pressure, especially if you have a very active and pressuring career on top of kids and sports and holidays and all that. It becomes very challenging. So when I was done, I took my break, which was to say the rest of the year of 2025. I wasn't very much of the year, but I took the rest of the year off. And I'm hitting 2026 and saying, I'm not going to stop and uh, uh, sit around like a lot of people. For me, it is literally almost 4 a.m. This is sort of my work schedule. I was used to Friday nights. You just grind all night writing. So that's why I kind of moved to here. Except for if I would yawn while writing the paper, it never noticed. Um, but I didn't want to stop the work ethic. I actually liked the work. It was very going through my dissertation was very satisfying. It was a long journey to get where I wanted, working with my committee, because it was something new that the university had not done a lot of. Um, I was I'm one of the few people doing it's a STEM, but business is an APA area, Bachelor of Science area type of thinking, but it's not it's kind of chemistry, it's not biology. And yet I had an experimental study, which is not very common in a business degree to have an experimental study. And so it took a while, but it really mattered to me to actually get it done and get real numbers and get new data that had not been gotten before. And so when I had that work ethic, when I find things that I think are important to me and important in doing, I want to put the work in. And so this is part of what I'm working on since then. This channel is something I want to put the work into, but it'd be a little more laid back. Like these aren't going to be super planned out. And you can tell, and not super edited. A lot of it's just showing up. A lot of, I think the desire for perfectionism is what kills a lot of YouTube channels. As somebody who's had like I run a small media property that's sort of unrelated to me. But it's got like 40,000 followers. Everything takes time. It doesn't have to be perfect. You got to scratch the itch the right way, and you got to just be. If you show up and say, "Hey, we're gonna show up. There's gonna be some mistakes," and that's okay. People are people are not dumb. They understand that. And like, okay, yeah, I know the ground rules. Like, I'm not coming here for perfection. Get it. Same thing here. So we're just going to push content. That's all this channel is going to be. Just going to push some content. Going to cover some things. Probably going to put my foot in my mouth plenty of times. I've already told at least 3 people in academia to go to hell, and people that are more well known than me. But hey, well, you know what they say: punch up, not down, right? So not that I'm punching. I'm not naming anyone. I guess I did name Chomsky. I don't know. I did name him. I try not to actually like. In all honesty, I try not to actually name people, but then again, I'm not in the Chomsky crowd. I don't really, I don't know who I even might have pissed off with that. If I pissed you off, well, guess what? Not everybody's a fan of everybody. It's okay, you know. Yeah, I think we're all gonna get over it, but that's not normally gonna happen here. I don't really now if somehow someone did call me out and things like that, well, you know, just like I tell if I'm gonna review a creator, not a criticism of them. It's going after an idea and picking it apart, not even necessarily attacking it. We're just going to pick it and rip it apart and learn more and dive deeper into something. But it's never a personal attack or anything. Somebody does a reaction to mine and what's a personal attack? Even even it's an absolute outright assassin job on my character. Yeah, have fun. Hope someone fucking cares. And if it blows up, good for you. Good for you. You did a thing. Well, that's yeah, you gotta let things just sort of roll sometimes. Like you just can't be all. I deal with a high enough stress job where people are far more serious than what goes on YouTube. So I'm not stressing over anything going on here or what we might cover in academia. So um, also, you will learn I can talk forever. I thought I was going to stop at an hour. It's now an hour and 38. Um, the longest podcast I've ever done unscripted was, I think I did 4 hours, 15 minutes, was right about there. I can't remember. I think I actually did a pause in the recording for a quick bathroom break and just came right back. And I almost caught myself talking as I was walking away. So if some of these videos run long, bail. I'm not going to put all the super important stuff in the end. If it's important enough to put in at the very end, I'll make sure to throw a note in at the beginning, so you guys aren't going to miss anything if you bail early. You know, I don't need the likes, I don't need the subscribes. If you enjoy and you want it in your feed, you do that for you. I'm not here for that. So, hope everyone just enjoys and hope somebody gets something from it. That'd be fantastic. And one of the greatest reasons to do anything like this, and I highly encourage anyone to do it on YouTube channel, even if nobody watches, the greatest way to learn anything is to teach it. That's the best word of wisdom I got here. Probably should put that at the beginning, but Yeah, we'll see how the non-editing goes. Second opinion with Dr. Do. Hope you guys have a great, great day. Goodbye now.